Hello and welcome to another edition of Ephlux Insights. My name is Babar Khan. I'm the entrepreneur in residence for this program. We are honored today to be joined by Sasha Strauss, the managing director of Innovation Protocol, coincidentally also the founder of the same organization, and the professor of brand strategy frameworks or brand strategy at two universities, UCLA and USC Marshall. Thank you for being on the program, Professor Strauss. Huge honor to be here talking to you. I understand that we have very less time, so could you just give us a brief introduction to Innovation Protocol, how it came about, and what is the USP of the agency within the agency?
Sure. Well, I'm honored to be here, so thank you for having me. I'm happy to answer any questions. Just to give a quick perspective on where my professional experience comes from, I used to work at big ad agencies like Chiat Day, and then I went to work at big public relations firms like Rogers and Cowan. And I migrated to big brand strategy consulting firms like Siegel and Gale. And then ultimately, I think as anyone does in any profession, when you get familiar enough with the space and you have clients that are your own, inevitably you probably start your own organization. So about 7.5 years ago, I took the risk and started my own company in my buddy's apartment, basically, to tell you the truth. Went from working in these big towers to my buddy's apartment. And now we're a thriving, powerful organization that I couldn't be more proud of.
That's really, really hard to do it, especially in that point in time. But you've grown to the point. I guess you've got a pretty strong team. I've been in a meeting with Matt Clayman, so it's pretty strong group of people with very strong experience and backgrounds.
Wonderful.
This question comes from thank you. So this question comes from a CEO of a pretty large organization that I can't name. And he asks, how are brands built using single or multi-communication channels in this era? And could you talk about how the concepts of innovation, customer experience, and advocacy play into it?
Cool. Okay, so a lot of times people think that when an organization is communicating that it should select a single communication channel and drive the entirety of its understanding through that single communication channel. And my inclination is, well, let's be empathetic here for a second, and if we back out and recognize that your audience never consume, doesn't matter who the audience is, they never consume content from a single source. They're living their lives. They're waking up in the morning and their radio is on. They're reading tweets during the day, then they're finally pulling up the article that you might have written, right? All of those pieces together congeal and compound to ultimately equal their understanding. So in this era, and innovative organizations in this era, recognize that if you can't give people a relationship to acquire, where their familiarity comes with time and exposure through a series of communication channels, then you're interrupting them. You're stopping them in their track, and you're asking them to buy in an instant. And as I've said in so many videos online, it's literally not kind. It shocks them. They feel unintelligent, and then they ultimately build some resentment to the organization that's constantly interrupting them. So again, innovative organizations who respect multi-channel communication understand that that is just kindness to a contemporary audience. This is where they go to get information. Be present, ready to engage within those experiences, and you'll build a brand.
That's definitely something that I've even applied to any consultation work that I do now. The idea is, if you're going to broadcast, have some meaning when you broadcast, because everyone else is saying something else. So it's basically that concept that even as simple as something you speak about in a different video where you talk about everyone, even people are broadcasting by the very clothes that they wear on their backs. So something as simple as if you apply the same concept to the idea of going for a job interview. So if you know everyone's going to be wearing a suit and a tie, go into the vest, go in with something different, stand out in whatever way you can, ask questions that no one expects you to ask. So whatever you do that differentiates you beyond what the norm is of what the advice is in terms of how you should communicate in that particular context, probably you stand out and probably you will impress where you need to impress.
Yes, let me supplement what you just said for 1 second, and let's use the job interview as a perfect example of this, because we can all extrapolate that and apply it to business meetings or whatever. When you do something just for the sake of differentiation, let's say you wear that bright tie, then it becomes the focus, and someone says, oh, that individual or that product or that business is trying to be different through this one differentiated aspect. What I ask again and what you just said, though, was, okay, let's say they do pay attention to that different thing. That thing does distract them. That in itself is not what they should care about. That distraction is supposed to bring their awareness to something else. The person wearing the outfit or the unique organization that you're trying to draw attention to. Where most communicators fall short is they go after the distraction alone, they go after the differentiation alone, and don't care that it should be a signature upon something much greater.
Definitely. So we're short on time, otherwise I would respond to that even. The second question comes from a former chairman at a pretty large above-the-line analog firm in New York, and he asked, what is the role of digital, mobile, and social media in building brands as opposed to engaging the audience?
Cool. You know, those three channels are always discussed as engagement utilities. Get out there and interact with your audiences and such. And the predecessor to going and doing that, of course, is to have constructed your brand strategy, to have said, this is who we are, and this is why we matter, and this is what makes us feel different in these topics. This is where our intellectual property came from. This is how we want our employees to think and believe. And once you have that construct, then when you're thinking about what to tweet or deciding whether an Instagram post is, quote, on brand, you're not actually deciding. You're basically just, you know, looking at it, saying to yourself, yeah, this complies, this is on brand, this feels consistent, and like I said earlier, and this will build the relationship. People will see this. They'll be familial. It'll be familial to them. They'll be able to remember it better. So back to the question again. Once you construct a social strategy or any contemporary communication channel strategy, it has to be built on top of the brand definition first. And what you see a lot of startups and entrepreneurs to do is they say, I'm just going to talk. I'm just going to get out there. I want people to know about me. I want to recruit engineers. I want my first customer. The challenge, though, is that when you drive by someone's house and the facade is all disheveled, it has different colors and different shapes and different things, it doesn't matter how wealthy the resident is, your inclination is, oh, that looks like a poorly run business. You know, that doesn't look like someone who's got their stuff together, right? All right, if we can acknowledge this as truth as human beings, you can imagine what your customer or your business-to-business buyer is feeling when they walk by your business online and they say to themselves, God, these guys clearly have no idea what they're doing. They sound different, they act different, they look different. I'm scared to do business with someone so disjointed.
And another aspect of fear that comes into the next question is, this comes from the CEO and also a founder of a somewhat large traditional agency in the UK, and he's a bit concerned. The question comes with a bit of concern. So he's built capabilities over the years in analog and ATL and non-digital capabilities. He's slowly moving towards the future, but it's taking a bit longer than expected. So it's kind of a fear-based question, and he's basically asking, firstly saying that we don't have the expertise in that area, in the new area that we should have expertise in, not only from a technical or strategic perspective. But we're getting there. We're trying our best. But in the process that we're getting there, could you tell us what our role would be in the advertising space today as a traditional advertiser?
Great. Another consistent question that I get from my students is, you know, is this the end of traditional advertising or end of traditional communication tools? And not only do I not believe that it's the end, I believe they have a very special place in the entire understanding because, again, tweets are frivolous and free. A Super Bowl commercial is very expensive and monumental in its mark. Together, they can create really powerful impact. Alone, they feel disjointed and unserving. Right. So I completely believe in traditional communications. Let me give an answer to the entrepreneur that you were just reflecting on. Excuse me, I don't remember his title, but there's this homework assignment that I tend to give some of my startup buddies because they want identity, they want online identity, but they don't have the time or resources. So what I say is use them solely as a research utility. Use them as listening devices. Pay attention to your competitors' advertising. Pay attention to your competitors' communications online and social and such. And just use it as a data set to affect your business decisions. I haven't started saying about what to talk about yet. You don't have the time actually right now. you business, don't have the time to go and spend on all of these things. So don't say, well, at least we got one ad out. Don't waste the money, don't waste the creativity doing that. It will create no impact. Instead, use all of that resource to just you just do an analysis on the nature of what's going on in the communications around your category. And just by that comprehension alone, you will be more nimble. You'll be more particular. You'll be in a pitch, some sales experience, and you'll have such a comprehension of what's going on in the universe of your category that your awareness will be more powerful than some nonchalant ad in some publication that doesn't matter.
And same person's asking this question. They have a specialty in healthcare, so they build their brand, they build their agency brand in being specialists in the healthcare area, whether that's
Great.
with the whether it's from the supplier side or the buyer side or even from the service side. And now they want to know how can brand building differ in different sectors or different industries. Where do you start with? How does the customer this isn't a non-digital question, so how does the customer behavior cycle differ with different sectors, and knowing that, how would brand building be affected when they start their campaigns?
Wonderful, wonderful. So the consistent question is, any person, any student, any business visionary can ask that question and say, my category is unique. What do I do to brand build in this very unique category called medical devices, right? The questions, though, remain the same, which is, okay, well, first and foremost, not only who would ultimately buy what you're selling, but who is going to influence them, who's going to inform them, where are they going to learn? And when you can answer all those questions, who the end user is actually becomes quite easy, because you're no longer just trying to stop them and convert them. You're informing them along their awareness journey. Okay? So my answer, like in the medical devices sector, I've done this for very, very large global medical institutions, where I have run through hospital parking lots with huge paychecks to ask an interventional radiologist a brand-related question. Literally like, excuse me, sir, I'm sorry, I know you're late, I know you're running to a very expensive surgery, but let me ask you 2 questions. And the fact of the matter is that no one has ever even empathized with them as physicians. Everyone is just trying to sell them stuff. Hey, use my device. Stop what you learned in medical school and go use this thing, right? And so ultimately you respect that these end users are like frazzled by the disruption. So the way that I've gone about brand building and served these medical institutions is we go all the way back to the peer-reviewed journals. We go back to the university researchers who haven't even published their work on the topic. And when you start to get all of these movable parties aware and speaking on behalf of the product, the category, etc., when you eventually get to that position, you're speaking her language. You're relating to the way that she was trained. You're relating to the nature of the patient she's currently seeing, not the patient she used to see. All of that is just through patience and analysis, but you can see that when you get to the communication point, there's no wasted efforts. There's no disruption that will insult her. There's only curiosity and engagement that will intrigue her. So, in summary again, it matters not who the end audience is. What matters most are the influences and context forces along the way. Brand building in those environments is cheap, it's easy, it's directed, it's one-on-one, one-on-5, and in those experiences you can absolutely come to influence the decision-making of the user.
And for anyone who's actually interested in learning a bit more about what Professor Strauss just said, you have to look at a case study. It's quite short, but you have to see a case study on their website on a brand called Synagro. People Planet goes to synchronization. Man, that is probably one of the smartest. If someone came to anyone I know with a brief that this is the business, could tell us how to build the brand, we'd flat for half an hour, then we'd come back with probably a pretty bad idea of how to go about it, thinking about one stakeholder group. But this particular campaign that they ran touches upon pretty much every group. You can just close your eyes and put yourself in the shoes of any stakeholder of the 16, 17 people who would be involved in this campaign, right, and it actually communicates something everyone wants to hear. So that's just for the audience if they want to know the applicative side of what you just said. That's actually the best, in my opinion, that was the best work that Innovation Protocol has done thus far. And there's a lot of good work, but that is the best for me. The next question is...
I was
sorry, you were saying?
just going to give 10 seconds on what you just said. First of all,
All right.
thank you for those compliments on the work. But let me just explain it to everyone who's listening so that they don't have to go dig it up. All we did was we took a business and a topic that people, including the employee base, were not interested in talking about. The company was in the human waste recycling business, and so it was already like disgusting to the editors of publications, already disgusting to university researchers, right? But because we were objective about it, because we said to ourselves, it doesn't matter how we feel as organisms, all that matters is all of the people in the system and what they understand. We did enough engagement and enough in the field relating that what we found is that all of the efforts of this organization power the concept that people and planets can actually synchronize. Like, instead of beating the planet up with our actions every day, that if we were to engage in a global human waste recycling program, we would actually be able to establish a balance on the planet. And maybe that came from science, maybe that came from just a quantification of the impact they've had in each of their regions. But the point was, we had to give all of their employees, all of their investors, something to celebrate, not just how good we were at collecting this waste. And I think that that's why that case worked so well.
And this question also comes from, I believe this person, I believe the person asking the question, which we spoke about off the record, I believe he's asking from the perspective of some brief he's received from a client that he's a bit stuck on. Great. And he basically says, Amazon and Facebook, they may have built their brands without advertising, but is that possible for, if not a fresh, or how about an existing FMCG or a bank? Can they build their brands without advertising, without that fourth P everyone likes to talk about? Or in the UK they say 7 Ps, but there you go.
It's still interesting that people think that Facebook and Amazon have never advertised. Let's take the word advertise out, and let's just talk about communication. Amazon and Facebook have communicated consistently, aggressively. They've built relationships with editors. That's public relations, so let's put that all in the big bundle of communication. So I definitely don't agree that they have not communicated or advertised. In fact, I would consider them some of the most prolific communicators in my experience. But when it comes to a bank or FMCG, anything that we're talking about to that respect, the question, can you be if you have never advertised? And my answer is, if nobody has ever heard of you, or people don't know that you exist, what do you think is going to impel them to come to you? You think they're just going to decide one day they're going to put lots of hard hours of work digging you up out of some confusing hole so that they can give you their money? I hear the nature of the question, but it doesn't matter what category you're in. If your audience is unaware, you have an obligation to bring yourself to their attention. Thus, you must advertise or market or do public relations or something to bring that awareness. So back to the question, no, I don't think you can build a business without advertising. There's no business to be had.
Yeah. There's a very famous quote that gets shared around the office at least once a year, especially when a really good campaign comes out, which comes from Stuart Britt. I'm not exactly sure what his profession is, but he basically says doing business without advertising is like winking at a girl in the dark. Only you know what you're doing and no one else does.
Oh, wow.
So okay. That applies right there.
I wouldn't even suggest that you're getting any action. You're making out with a girl in the dark. That assumes you're getting something out of it. The truth of the matter, she doesn't even know you're there. She doesn't even know you exist and doesn't know how wonderful you are because you have never given her the chance to come on to understand it.
Yeah. This question comes from us. We're short on time. You have another session to go to, and if you could share some videos, put up a website, man. I see there are all these teasers for fans like myself. We see teasers that, I'm going to speak here. Then we're like, where's the link? Where's the live stream? You need to see this. This last question is from me directly. I do a lot of pro bono consultation, and a couple of brands, they do get, a couple of the businesses that we do work with, they get a lot of funding, but they don't know what to go beyond their funding, and majority of the businesses that we work with, they, when I say startups, I would say that they're technical startups, so they don't even know how to communicate in the first place. Their only communication style is an informative communication style. but they don't know how to be persuasive. They don't understand the concept of brand building from a storytelling perspective. And informative advertising usually is boring. Probably in this era, we need to talk about stories. We need to build a compelling emotional reason more than we need to build an informative reason. So the question from me directly comes, how does a brand in this era or otherwise, how does a brand in this era go global?
You're not going to like my answer, which is, what's the point? You know, someone came to me, well, I'll just talk about it. So I heard Uniqlo, the big clothing manufacturer, clothing retailer, on the radio the other day, and their CEO's voice said, "We want to be the biggest clothing manufacturer in the world, a biggest clothing manufacturer and retailer in the world." And you know, and my reaction is that, so your goal is not to clothe people or give them creative expression or bring democratized design to the masses. You just want to be the biggest. So I'm supposed to like you for this? I'm supposed to want to buy your clothes because you have some sick global dominance goal? How is that supposed to relate to people? Back to the question, how does a brand go global? Global is a misnomer. You live in Pakistan right now, I live in the United States. We speak the same language, yet we live completely different lives. To suggest that there is such a thing as a global assertion that all can love is unfair. It's unfair to the cultures, faiths, communities of the global populace. So the work that I do and the work that we provide to our global clients is always tailored to localization. Localization is not just localized colors or localized words, it's localized attitude, localized buying behavior. Because if Americans buy in a heartbeat and Pakistanis buy in a week because they contemplate and ask their family first, great, great. So before anybody says I want to be global or the biggest or any of those things, please have a human reality check and ask yourself, what are you really going to do here? Do you want to be able to get off an airplane and point at all the signs and say, look at us, look how great we are, we're a big important company, yet none of your consumers, none of your partners have any idea as to what you're doing? Then congratulations, ego, you did it, you went global. But have you created good business? Are you generating profit? Do you have a stable business that can survive tumultuous economies? To me, those are so much more important than, our brand is the biggest, loudest voice on a global scale.
But I mean, I will definitely take this forward. But that this sort of notion, when I talk about your ideologies and your frameworks with people, they say that's actually how we feel, but it'll require an enormous culture shift within the organization that's so sales driven, that's so return on marketing investment driven, which is fine, which is good. I don't doubt that it's good and all. But this concept that there's some patience in there to see if an idea would work. How would an organization bring that to the call? Usually people say it starts at the top. If the CEO believes it and the CEO communicates it down the pipeline, then everyone will start following it because down in their hearts they believe in serving people. Their product is actually fulfilling a need. Now, whether that need is monetary, if it's something emotional, that comes with time to the understanding of it. But how would you say when an organization says to you, I mean, I'm sure you've been doing this for 7 years now. I'm sure you've met skeptics who go like, yeah, that's a nice concept, but in the real world, this is how the world works. This is how our business runs. I'm sure you've met people like that. So could you tell us how you responded to people like that? In a nice way, I'm sure, and what kind of measures or communication that have you done in response that have actually resulted in that sort of positive change in the direction that you wanted them to start thinking?
Yeah. So I completely believe in the metrics, just like you had said. I believe in measuring and refining and reconstructing your communications efforts. But let's just do this as human beings here for a second. You and I have been a part of companies, teams, clubs, youth groups, religious groups, and ask yourself about your memories of those times. And you might be able to remember the people you worked with or your friends, but if there wasn't a chief believer, someone who believed in the team's success the most, maybe it was the team captain, or maybe it was the coach, you could never be your best. I don't care how physically fit you were or skilled you were at the task. If you know, the greatest athletes in the world have had coaches. You know, presidents of the world's freest economies have had constant advisors. So if a CEO is not interested in taking a belief leadership role, then you're right, stick with the traditional. Stick with the measurement and hurt people's feelings every time they bring creative to the table. Whereas what I tend to do, and listen, I get thrown out of just as many meetings as I get welcomed into. And that is because I believe that this is a new time in history. As I've said many, many times on the radio and on speeches, they are holding on to antiquity. They believe that it will be the same, just like when the BlackBerry first showed up and they said, only idiots will check their email every day. All day. What do we do, Bevar? What do we do? We wake up, and maybe it's an email from our family. Point being, they said that we were idiots. They said that this would never happen, that people wouldn't have email all the time. Not only have email all the time, but you and I talk through Twitter messaging. Like, there is this constant flow of communication. So, sorry, traditional CEO, but you're going to have to wake up to this contemporary reality. But back to the most important point in this, which is that it doesn't matter how big your organization is, it doesn't matter how good your product is. If there is not a back to follow, a model of true belief in the business and what it's fighting for and what impact it has on its audiences, you will never motivate the employee base to do anything else other than meet their job description. And clients call it 501, don't they? You know, at the end of the day, when the clock, no, clients call, hey, you know, can you help me with this? I need some guidance. And we care, don't we? And our answer is, yes, I can't wait to help you celebrate these ideas and actualize them and bring them to fruition. So, as I have learned on my global escapades with CEOs of all shapes and sizes, the person with the highest degree, the person with the most job experience, those two people are not leading the world's most important organizations. The ones who are leading now have woken up to the reality that if their employees don't know who they're working for, or why, or what those people are thinking about every day, how is that employee supposed to motivate themselves? Really? How are they supposed to go to work every day and create value when they don't even know who the people across the hall are and why they're also working for the same thing, right? This is just humanity. This is just, you know, we can go back to the old methods of advertising and we can go back hundreds of years before that, and this still remains true when tribes were being built and communities were being discovered. So I'm sorry for my rant, but the point is, and what I found internationally is that if you cannot assert a belief that can be actualized in a human being, a human leader, you are just going to be tightening bolts on employees, tightening bolts on distributors. Hey, can we take another 1% off the top of that? Tightening bolts on the retailers. Please put us on the second shelf, not the third, right? What do you think you're going to be the hardest at that? You're going to push hardest? You're going to negotiate the hardest? You're going to have the smartest lawyers? Is that what you're going to do? Come on, let's just be real here. Let's just be honest and respectful and acknowledge that everybody deserves someone that they can believe in at work. Without it, just working people to the bone.
That is actually like you and I had spoken earlier about my advocacy of you, and the reason was that I believe in this sort of concept way at the back of my mind. I'm sure when I started out, I had this belief of how brands should be built, but over the years of working for people who had the other mindset, I slowly became corrupted down the road.
Right.
And then when your videos were discovered, and you know, our parent company, our chief investors, working with Matt on various projects. I'm not sure exactly what, but they're working on something or the other. And they keep talking about they have this entirely new way of going about business. And I was like, it's not possible. It's probably just a gimmick. It's not a gimmick. Everyone in the organization, from the executive assistant all the way up to the CEO, believes in the same message, and it's part of culture that you're bringing into the organization. So myself and a lot of other your friends, I'm sure there's thousands of them, we're spreading the word because we want to get the word out there that this is what's going to work in the future. This is what we believed in. This is what we believed in when we were growing up. We knew that the more honest a brand was about its end objective to serve humanity, if you will, to put a word out there, because you reference religion a lot. I remember someone had mentioned earlier, or asked you earlier, so what's the best book on advertising and getting the word out there? And you said, read the Bible. Read any religious context. It's who has reached out to the world in a more deeper manner than all the religions of the world.
Exactly.
That's the greatest brand reach there is. No brand that we know of in existence has done what a religion did in that era of low communication channels and no TV, no print, no Facebook. The amount of reach it got in its percentage of the world population with those really traditional Stone Age level communication tools, if we will, word of mouth for that matter. With that accomplished, if you can just replicate that honesty and that sense of catering to the person's spirit or the person's soul, that probably forget the word probably, that has more value than these other mediums where we talk about you will be better than that person. It's not about you will be better. It's about you will be more fulfilled than that person.
And
so thank you, Professor Strauss. Yeah.
Can I?
Sorry, you were saying?
Yes, Babar. I was just going to give you one last point, which I think is so timely and fun. Yesterday, I gave a speech to 60 Catholic priests, and they get it. They get it. They get what you and I feel and believe and have believed since we were children. They get it. These are very traditional people. So I think that what we're in the midst of here is an awakening. I called it a new renaissance in a speech once. I don't care what it's called. All I care about is that we know this to be truth no matter what religion we were raised on, no matter who our bosses were, no matter what books we study, no matter where we went to graduate school. We know this to be truth, and thus it is worth fighting for. It is worth fighting for all day, every day.
It's actually even more unheard of. There's a video up where you're telling people that you come from a non-Catholic background, but you are relating to them, and there are people cheering in the audience. They're saying, he sounds like one of us, but he's not. How is that possible? So that's definitely there's Professor Strauss. Thank you very much for taking out the time to talk to us today. I hope to have more sessions in the future. We will be having ideation-oriented sessions in the future with all the panelists, all the interviewees of Ephlux Insights, and wish you the best of luck in the speaking session you're having today. And on behalf of the millions of fans that I have created as a result of sharing and talking about you as if I know you on a one-on-one basis, which a lot of people come to believe. Please share more videos. I mean, I can only watch that Google ThinkSites video only so many millions of times. So please do set up the site. We'll do it for you for free if you'd like, and we'll talk again soon. Have a great day.
Bauer, thank you again. As I started this conversation with your sincere advocacy, it really means something to me every time you say my name, and I'm not doing this for any other reason than to spread the truth. So to have your support and sharing it honors me greatly. So I'm happy to do this for you whenever you like.
We're all winning at the end of the day.
Yes. There's plenty of space for everybody to win. You know, there's plenty of space for all of us.
Thank you, Professor Strauss. Looking forward to more of your videos and more of your ThinkSites, if you will, and wish you the best of luck for today. Take care. Bye.
Thank you, bye-bye. Good to see you.